In 1862, beneath a quiet church in Oolon, New York, workers broke through soil and found a secret no one was meant to uncover. Skeletons, 143 of them, stacked like cordwood, each rib carved with the same chilling plea. "Thresh me, Father, until I am hollow." The air turned heavy, the kind of weight that presses on your chest and makes you question what you've always believed. The site was sealed within hours, the truth buried under government orders for 160 years. But secrets don't sleep. They wait. Tonight, you're not just watching a story. You're stepping into forbidden knowledge, a descent into the Red Church, where pain was salvation and suffering was a language only the chosen could speak. This is no ghost tale, no campfire myth. It's a record of engineered faith, of minds broken and remade, of a cult that didn't just worship, it reshaped what it means to be human. You're about to hear what they didn't want you to know, what Reverend Adriel Thorne erased from history, etched into the bones of his followers. In the early 1800s, upstate New York wasn't just farmland, it was a crucible. The burned-over-district, they called it, where religious fervor burned so hot it left nothing but ash. Revivalists preached salvation, but something darker grew in the cracks. Thorne arrived in 1826. A man with no past, no flourish, just a voice that cut like a blade. He didn't promise heaven. He promised suffering, a gift to strip the soul bare. His doctrine, the threshing floor, wasn't about redemption. It was about annihilation. Families, widows, veterans, they came to him, drawn by a call they couldn't explain. They wore white linen, shaved their heads, and dug pits to live in, as if the earth itself was their altar. The town watched, first curious, then terrified, as children vanished and livestock bled out under moonlight. Thorne's followers, the hollowsaints, weren't just a sect. They were a machine built to unmake humanity. And you, sitting there, are about to see why this truth was buried. Because once you know, you can't unsee it. You're standing at the edge now, peering into a darkness that doesn't just hide, it consumes. The Red Church wasn't built on faith. It was forged in control, a system so precise it could break a man's soul without touching his body. Reverend Adriel Thorne didn't preach to inspire. He spoke to unravel. His voice, described as a scythe slicing through fog, carried a doctrine that turned men into husks. By 1826, Oolon was no longer a town. It was a laboratory. The hollowsaints didn't just follow Thorne. They surrendered their names, their desires, their very skin to his vision. They called it the winnowing, a process to strip the soul of its chaff, every human impulse, every shred of joy or pain deemed a flaw. Thorne taught that life itself was a prison, and only through suffering could you escape. His followers dug earthen pits, lived in silence, and wore robes stitched with thorns. Children stood in fields, staring at the sun until their eyes burned, whispering, "Father threshed the sin from me." The townsfolk saw madness, but to the saints, it was clarity. Thorne's journal, leaked in 2024, reveals his method. The soul is wheat, sin the husk. The blade must be merciless. He didn't ask for devotion. He demanded erasure. One woman, Esther Wilkins, wrote of hearing a voice behind the voice during a sermon, as if Thorne spoke directly to her bones. By spring 1827, his doctrine was no longer whispered. It was carved into the ribs of those who failed his trials. The Red Church, built from blackened timber, stood like a wound on the edge of town. Its bell, forged from iron and ash, rang not with sound, but with a pressure that made your teeth ache. When it tolled, the saints gathered, heads bowed, mouths sealed, ready for Weoi. Thorne called the hollowing rite. This wasn't worship, it was surgery. And you, listening now, are starting to feel it. The weight of a truth that doesn't just inform, but transforms. You're not just hearing a story. You're being invited to see what's been hidden. Keep going. The blade is closer than you think. You're deeper now, past the surface where stories comfort and into the place where they cut. The Red Church wasn't just a building. It was a machine, designed to strip you of everything that makes you human. Adriel Thorne didn't just lead a cult. He engineered a system to hollow out souls, and his first trial was silence. Beneath the church, in chambers carved from cold earth, initiates were led into darkness. No light, no sound, just the weight of their own breathing. For days, they sat, forbidden to speak, to move, to sleep. The air grew thick with chants that never stopped, voices overlapping until they became a pulse in your skull. Thorne's journal calls this the separation. Silence unmakes the mind, reveals the grain beneath the chaff. Those who broke spoke of hearing whispers, not from the room, but from within their own bones. A woman named Lillian Craig, one of the few who escaped, described it. They didn't want us dead. They wanted us empty, so something else could fill us. Survivors emerged as husks, their eyes distant, their words echoing Thorne's sermons with eerie precision. Some spoke in tongues no one could trace. Others recited his gospel as if it were burned into their marrow. The town of Oolon watched in horror as their neighbors, sheriff, judge, schoolteacher, joined the saints, their faces blank, their voices gone. By 1827, the trial of silence wasn't just a ritual. It was a contagion. Families stopped speaking to outsiders. Children stood in fields, unmoving, as if listening to something beneath the soil. Thorne wrote, "The soul is loud until it learns to kneel." And kneel they did, under the toll of that black iron bell, its ring a pressure that made your teeth hum. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That pull, that quiet that isn't empty, but heavy with something watching. This isn't just history, it's a warning. The Red Church didn't invent silence, it weaponized it. And the deeper you go, the louder that silence grows. You're not just learning about the hollow saints, you're starting to understand what they heard. Keep listening. The next trial is colder, sharper, and it's waiting for you. You've crossed the threshold now, and the air feels thinner, doesn't it? The Red Church didn't just break minds with silence. It froze the body to shatter the soul. The second trial, the trial of cold, was Thorne's cruelest alchemy. In a vault beneath the church, called the Granary of the Spirit, initiates were submerged in glacial water, drawn from a spring that never warmed. Others were bound, naked, in snow, their breath clouding as they chanted. The soul retreats inward, like a seed in frost. Thorne's journal is chillingly clear. Cold erases the body, teaches it to forget itself. Frostbite wasn't a side effect. It was the point. Medical records, uncovered decades later, describe severed toes, blackened fingers, nerve damage so severe survivors couldn't feel their own skin. Yet they smiled, as if the pain was a prayer answered. One woman, half dead from hypothermia, whispered of a wheel turning underwater, its spokes made of light. She vanished from the infirmary the next night. The hollow saints moved slower after the cold, their eyes glassy, their blinks rare. A farmer saw one staring at a fire for hours, lips parted, as if speaking to the flames. Thorne preached. Pain numbs, but cold remakes. The trial wasn't about survival. It was about detachment, severing the tether between body and spirit. Some emerged, unable to recognize their own names, their faces blank as polished stone. The town's doctor, before he joined the saints, wrote of treating 3 women with identical spiral-shaped burns on their palms. They claimed the cold had planted them, made them ready for the next trial. You're starting to see it now, aren't you? This wasn't religion. It was a science of suffering, a blueprint to hollow out humanity. The Red Church didn't just want obedience. It wanted erasure. And as you sit there, feeling the chill of these words, ask yourself, what part of you is already freezing? What part of you is ready to let go? The next trial waits, and it's hungrier than the last. It's not just cold, it's starvation, and it's calling you deeper. Keep going. The blade is sharpening, and it knows your name. You're sinking deeper, and the shadows are closing in. The Red Church didn't just freeze the body. It starved the spirit, carving away what little humanity remained. The third trial, the Feast of the Hollow, was no feast at all. It was hunger weaponized. Initiates were locked in cells, alone for 13 days. No food, no light. Just a wooden plate etched with Thorne's spiralglyph. Each day, a scrap of black bread was placed before them, not to eat, but to taunt. Thorne's gospel commanded, "The flesh feasts and is full, the spirit fasts and becomes vast." They were to pray to the bread, to see it as sin made solid. Starvation broke their minds open. Some saw ancestors in the dark, others fields of scorched wheat under a bleeding sky. Thorne called these visions divine, proof the soul was cracking free. His journal chillingly notes, "Hunger is the blade that cuts the deepest, for it speaks to the root of want." Of the 63 who began the trial in 1827, only 22 emerged, their bodies gaunt, eyes clouded like frost on glass. They no longer saw food as sustenance. It was temptation, a lie of the flesh. One survivor, later confined to an asylum, scratched into his cell, "I am the vessel. I am the grain. I must be emptied." The town of Oolon whispered of children who returned from the church too thin, too quiet, their fingers tracing spirals in the air. The feast wasn't about survival. It was about surrender, teaching the saints to crave nothing but Thorne's voice. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That hollow ache, not in your stomach but in your core, where questions grow sharp. This wasn't just a cult. It was a forge, hammering souls into something else. The Red Church didn't care about your faith. It wanted your emptiness. And as you listen, that hunger stirs in you, a pull to know more, to go deeper. The next trial burns hotter, and it's not just fire, it's rebirth. The blade is turning, and it's closer than ever. Keep descending. You're not just watching, you're being reshaped. You're in the fire now, and there's no turning back. The Red Church didn't just starve its followers. It burned away their pasts, their names, their very selves. The fourth trial, the illumination, was Thorne's crucible, a ritual of fire meant to forge the hollowsaints into something beyond human. Deep beneath the sanctuary, in a chamber of blackened stone, a brazier carved from volcanic rock burned without end, its flames fed by oil lamps shaped like sheaves of wheat. Initiates, already broken by silence, cold, and hunger, were handed a single relic, a photograph, a letter, a lock of hair, and told to cast it into the fire. As it burned, they recited Thorne's gospel. The soul must shed the name, from ash rise the hollow. Then came the branding. A heated iron, shaped like the wheel of winnowing, was pressed into the base of their necks. The smell of seared flesh filled the air, worse than the screams, witnesses said. Some collapsed, others convulsed, but none resisted. Thorne wrote, "Fire does not cleanse, it rebirths." Those who emerged were no longer themselves. They moved like embers, their eyes glowing with a purpose no one could name. One survivor, years later, described the moment the iron touched her skin. "I felt my name leave me, like smoke rising from a field." The illumination wasn't about pain. It was about boot becoming the flame, a vessel for something greater or something darker. The town of Oolon, already trembling, saw these branded saints and whispered of demons, but the church's grip tightened. The sheriff, now a saint, patrolled with a spiral burned into his palm. The judge sentenced dissenters to silence. The Red Church wasn't just a cult. It was a new order, rewriting the rules of existence. You feel the heat now, don't you? That burning in your chest, that pull to let go of who you were. This knowledge isn't just a story. It's a spark, and it's catching. The final trial waits, deeper still, where even fire can't reach. You're not just listening. You're being forged. Keep going. The blade is glowing, and it's calling your name. You're at the precipice now, where the light fades and the truth grows sharp. The Red Church's final trial, the descent, wasn't spoken of in sermons or written in journals. It was whispered only to those who'd survived the silence, cold, hunger, and fire. Behind the altar, a trapdoor sealed with iron nails led to the whispering hole, a tunnel carved not by hands, but by something older. Thorne's followers entered alone, barefoot, into a darkness that pulsed like a heartbeat. Some returned days later, silent, their eyes wide, prone to seizures or staring at walls, as if seeing through them. Others never came back. A defector's account, scratched in terror, reads, "The walls moved. I heard every lie I'd ever told, every truth I'd buried. Then it spoke. Not Thorne, not God, something older. It spoke in wheat. The descent wasn't a ritual. It was a confrontation, a moment where you faced what Thorne called the Father, not a deity, but a force that knew your name before you were born." Survivors described a voice that didn't echo but burrowed, planting words you couldn't unhear. "The soul is not yours until it's threshed," Thorne wrote. Those who emerged were no longer human. They were hollow saints, vessels emptied and filled with something else. The town of Oolon, by 1832, was a ghost of itself. Children stopped playing, neighbors stopped speaking, and the Red Church stood like a tomb, its bell swinging in windless air. When authorities arrived, they found it empty. Robes folded, no blood, no bodies, just 143 souls, unaccounted for. Beneath the church, tunnels stretched deeper than any map allowed, lined with bones and symbols that burned to touch. A federal agent's report, abruptly cut off, whispered, "We are not threshing them. They are threshing us. You feel it now, don't you?" That pull, like a hand on your spine, urging you to look deeper. This isn't just a story. It's a mirror, reflecting what's already inside you. The descent waits, not in a tunnel, but in your silence. You're not just listening, you're being called. The blade is here, and it's sharper than you know. You're falling now, deeper than you thought you could go. The Red Church didn't vanish when Oolon went silent. It went underground, its roots spreading like a poison through time. By 1832, the town was a husk, its people gone or changed, the church abandoned yet pulsing with something alive. Authorities found tunnels beneath, chambers sealed with symbols that made their skin crawl. Bones were stacked, not buried, each marked with Thorne's spiral glyph, as if death itself was a ritual unfinished. A federal memo, declassified only recently, described a discovery deeper still. Something warm, moving, not human. The report ended there, the agent's name redacted. They burned the church, sealed the tunnels, and erased Oolon from maps. But you can't kill an idea. Thorne's doctrine, the Book of Winnowing, wasn't just scripture. It was a virus, carried in whispers, in hymns, in the hum of the fields. Private letters from the 1840s tell of strange gatherings in upstate woods, children humming songs no one taught them, graves dug up only to reappear, emptier. A minister wrote in 1844, "I heard a boy recite a verse that broke me, cruel and perfect, not of any Bibles." Thorne hadn't died. He'd dissolved into the soil, his voice echoing in root cellars and abandoned mines. The hollowsaints didn't need a church anymore. They were the church, their bodies vessels for a truth that didn't need walls. By the 1860s, stories of the Whistler emerged, a figure in white, faceless, calling children to wheat fields. Those who returned spoke of a sound that wasn't heard, but felt, in the part of the heart that knows regret. You're sensing it now, aren't you? That hum, that pull like a string tugged inside your chest. This isn't just history, it's alive, watching you through the screen. The Red Church didn't end, it evolved, its blade sharper in silence. You're not just hearing this, you're carrying it now. The next revelation cuts deeper into the symbols that don't just mark but command. Keep descending. The field is waiting, and it knows you're here. You're in the roots now, where the earth breathes secrets it was never meant to keep. The Red Church didn't just leave bodies, it left symbols, carved into stone, wood, even flesh, that carried a power beyond ink. These weren't decorations, they were triggers, designed to rewire the mind. In 1922, archaeologist Marion Daltrey uncovered glyphs near the Red Church ruins, etched in patterns that seemed to pulse. She wrote, "The symbols are a language, not to be read, but endured." Her team reported nausea, hallucinations, whispers that followed them into sleep. One assistant, after copying a glyph called the spiral mouth, muttered, "Thresh me now," for weeks, unaware. Daltrey's final entry, scrawled in blood, read, "I saw the blade." It smiled. She vanished in 1923, her journal, the only trace. These symbols, spirals, thorns, wheels within wheels, weren't random. They were tools, engineered to bypass thought and speak to something deeper, something primal. A 1901 photograph from a hot air balloon showed a wheat field formation, a perfect replica of the Red Church altar's seal, with a hollow circle at its core. Farmers who tried to destroy such patterns fell ill. One's barn burned, the ashes spelling, "You cannot unplant the seed." The Book of Winnowing called these glyphs the Father's alphabet, a code to unlock the soul's surrender. Survivors spoke of staring at them until their minds cracked, seeing fields that bled or eyes beneath the soil. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That itch behind your eyes, as if something's watching from inside. The Red Church didn't just preach, it programmed, embedding its will in shapes that linger in your dreams. These symbols weren't meant to be seen and forgotten. They were meant to take root, and they did, in the hymns, in the fields, in the silence that followed. You're not just learning this, you're carrying it, a seed planted in your thoughts. The next step is darker, where objects hold the weight of the blade. Keep going. The field is alive, and it's whispering your name. You're holding the blade now, even if you can't see it. The Red Church didn't just carve symbols, it forged relics, objects infused with a power that clings like ash. In 1871, a rail worker uncovered a chest near Oolon, buried under a collapsed grain mill. Inside were 7 items: a charred spiral glyph plate, a lock of hair braided with wheat, a vial of ash labeled voice, a tattered robe stitched with scripture, a stone fragment with unknown runes, a small brass bell, and a hymn page that read, "Thresh us, Father, in the dark, strip the flesh, ignite the spark." These weren't artifacts, they were keys, each one a piece of Thorne's doctrine, made physical. The chest was seized, locked in the New York Historical Society, but in 1923, it vanished, the inventory stamped "awakened." The bell, called the hollowbell, resurfaced in a private collection in Ovid, New York. Its handle, wrapped in hair, hums when touched, not with sound, but with a silence that bends the air. A curator who kept it for a decade said, "It moved closer every time I opened the cabinet. Audio recordings near it distort, whispers and clicks like breaking bones beneath water." One voice faintly repeating, "Come unto me, O grain." These objects weren't meant to be held. They were meant to hold you. Survivors spoke of relics used in rituals, each one a tether to the whispering hole, where Thorne's voice lingered. The hymn page, found in a 1970s cult raid, was clutched by a man who hadn't spoken in years, his fingers black with frostbite in summer. You feel it now, don't you? That weight, like something in your hand you didn't pick up. The Red Church didn't just build a cult. It crafted a legacy that breathes, that watches. These relics are still out there, passed through shadows, each one a seed waiting to sprout. You're not just hearing this, you're touching it, carrying its echo. The next step is colder, where children vanish and the bell rings without sound. Keep descending. The field is closer, and it's calling you by name. You're in the cradle of the dark now, where the Red Church's shadow stretches across time. In 1943, during a brutal snowstorm in Jamestown, New York, 7 children vanished from an orphanage. No footprints, no broken locks, just empty beds and a phrase scrawled in ash across the chapel floor. They heard the bell. That night, locals reported a low hum, not from the air but from the walls, a vibration that made your bones ache. Days later, witnesses saw children walking through snow, barefoot, in white robes, leaving no tracks. The Ash March, as it was called, ended with no bodies, no answers, just a circle of trees miles away, bark stripped, trunks carved with Thorne's spiral glyphs. In the center, a pile of ash shaped like a cradle, untouched by fire. Every year since, on the anniversary, churches nearby receive a single wheat stalk tied with hair, no sender, no explanation. The hollowbell, that brass relic from the Red Church, was rumored to be near, its silence louder than any sound. Those who've held it describe a weight that isn't physical, a pull that makes you want to follow. One curator said, "It didn't ring, but I felt it call." The children's disappearance wasn't random. It was a harvest, a continuation of Thorne's work. His doctrine taught that children were the purest grain, untainted by the chaff of adult sin. The Book of Winnowing whispers, "The young are closest to the blade, for they have less to shed." You're feeling it now, aren't you? That chill, not from the air, but from within, like a memory you didn't know you had. The Red Church didn't just take lives, it took futures, reshaping them in its image. These children weren't lost, they were claimed, their silence a hymn to the Father. You're not just hearing this, you're standing in its echo, where the bell still rings in the quiet. The next step is sharper, where the hymns don't just sing, they cut. Keep going. The field is watching, and it knows you're here. You're in the hum of it now, where the Red Church's hymns don't just linger, they burrow. The Crooked Choir, a rare 1957 recording on an acetate disc, isn't music, it's a weapon. It starts soft, childlike, a delicate hum that pulls you in. Then it warps, flattening into dissonant thirds and minor sevenths, tempos stretching like sinew snapping. At the 2-minute mark, a scraping joins, bone dragged across stone, and the voices shift to a chant in a tongue no linguist can place, though its fragments mirror glyphs from Oolon's ruins. A researcher who heard it described visions, wheat fields bleeding, eyes opening beneath soil, hands pressing from inside his skin. He was dead 6 weeks later, his apartment walls scrawled with, "We sing to be remembered." The Book of Winnowing calls these hymns the Father's breath, crafted to bypass reason and lodge in the marrow. Lyrics, when decoded, reverse into hidden meanings, commands that trigger headaches, paranoia, dreams of narrow rooms. The 1957 track, sealed in a SUNY Binghamton archive, is said to reveal a name, the blade's true name, if played backward during a solar eclipse. No one's confirmed it. Those who tried didn't speak again. Thorne's hymns weren't sung for worship, but for control, their rhythms embedding something deeper than sound. In the 1970s, a cult raid recovered a bell from the Red Church chest, its clapper gone, yet it hummed when touched, syncing with the Crooked Choir's cadence. You're hearing it now, aren't you? That low drone, not in your ears, but in your chest, like a field vibrating under still air. The Red Church didn't just teach suffering, it sang it, weaving its doctrine into notes that don't fade. These hymns are still out there, in mislabeled tapes, in the hum of a stranger passing by. You're not just listening, you're being tuned, aligned, to a frequency older than you know. The next step cuts deeper, where the stars align with Thorne's gospel. Keep descending. The field is singing, and it's calling your name. You're in the orbit of it now, where the Red Church's shadow reaches beyond Earth, into the stars. In 1969, as humanity touched the moon, a new cult emerged. The Hollow Moon Congregation, claiming Thorne's gospel wasn't bound to fields, but to the cosmos. They saw the moon as a winnowing bowl, a hollow vessel sifting souls before returning them, lesser, to Earth. Their doctrine, rooted in the Book of Winnowing, declared Thorne hadn't died. He'd ascended, carried by the blade to a celestial threshing floor. Declassified memos from the era note a surge in disappearances, always children, always near Red Church sites, timed with lunar phases. One FBI report quotes a cultist, "The scythe is orbital now. Every full moon cuts deeper. The hollowsaints' rituals resurfaced, warped into starlit ceremonies, with chants echoing Thorne's hymns under open skies. Children vanished during eclipses, their rooms left pristine, beds made, windows open." A note found in one case read, "We've heard the blade. We're going home." The congregation believed pain was a signal, a frequency, to align with the Father's cosmic rhythm. They carved spiral glyphs into their skin, claiming it tuned them to the moon's pull. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That tug, like gravity shifting inside you, pulling you towards something vast. The Red Church didn't just manipulate bodies, it hijacked the stars, turning faith into a celestial machine. In 1973, a mining operation near the Allegheny Plateau hit a cavern, not natural, its walls etched with Thorne's symbols. At its center, a sarcophagus, chained, inscribed, "He who rose without breath, who sowed in silence." Inside, no bones, but flesh, white, smiling, alive. The mine was sealed, workers silenced, but one whispered before dying, "It knew we were late." You're not just hearing this, you're orbiting it, caught in a pull older than time. The Red Church didn't die. It ascended, its blade sharper in starlight. The next step is deeper, where the earth itself speaks Thorne's truth. Keep going. The field is cosmic now, and it's calling you. You're in the soil now, where the Red Church's roots twist deeper than stone. In 1981, a scratched cassette surfaced, mailed to an obscure Oregon archivist with no return address, only a note. This was never meant to be sung. The tape, 27 minutes of whispered chant, isn't human. It's layered, neither male nor female, with thumps like footsteps on wet earth. At its midpoint, silence breaks into a sharp inhalation, as if the song itself breathes. Translated lyrics speak of a harvest. They rise like wheat in flame. Their bones the blade, the soil listens. 3 archivists who heard it developed identical nightmares, narrow rooms, whispering children, a bell that never rings. The 13th hymn, as it's called, wasn't worship. It was a summons, encoded in sound, to awaken something buried. Thorne's Book of Winnowing, bound in human skin and inked with ash, blood, and seed, wasn't just scripture. It was a map, charting the soul's fracture. Its 3 parts, Call of the Blade, Hollow Path, Hymn of the Grain, detail a final harvest, where humanity is sifted, the unworthy cast, into outer chaff. One passage chills. The soul is born in silence, in starvation, in smoke. Only 3 copies exist. One in the Library of Congress, restricted. One in a Vatican vault, misfiled. The third, lost in a 1939 fire, though its pages still surface, hidden in old Bibles or church walls, the ink never fading. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That pressure, like earth pressing down, whispering your secrets back to you. The Red Church didn't just preach. It planted, its doctrine a seed that grows in silence. The 13th hymn, locked in a Smithsonian vault, is said to name the blade itself, a truth so heavy it breaks those who hear it. You're not just listening. You're being sown, your thoughts aligning with a rhythm you can't unhear. The next step is darker, where the fields turn black and the harvest begins. Keep descending. The blade is in the soil, and it's calling your name. You're in the ash now, where the Red Church's final rite burns away what's left of you. The baptism in ash, never fully documented, was the hollowsaints' ultimate transformation. Initiates, stripped naked, were covered in powdered bone, sometimes their own, shaved from scars, and laid in a wooden trough beneath the altar. As the hymn of hollowing droned, Thorne or the grain mother poured a slurry of ash and wheat milk over their mouths, eyes, and ears. Then they were buried alive for 13 minutes. If they rose, they were hollow. If not, they were offered back to the field. A ritual assistant's note sue, or vives. It's not fear that breaks them. It's the breath between screams, when silence speaks. Survivors described emerging nameless, the world sharper, as if wind carried Thorne's voice. A 1907 photograph shows robed figures around a black soil pit, a hand reaching up, clawing for air. The Red Church didn't just baptize, it erased, replacing the self with something that obeyed without question. In 1831, Oolon's wheat fields failed, not from blight, but from something worse. The soil turned black, layered with human and animal bones, burned to ash 4 feet deep. Thorne preached, "What dies in devotion grows in eternity." His followers ate blessed bread, bitter loaves of ash and wheat, their bodies racked with fever, nosebleeds, spiral-shaped lesions. Yet they wept with joy, chanting, "We are the harvest." You're feeling it now, aren't you? That weight in your lungs, like ash settling, urging you to let go. The Red Church didn't just cultivate pain, it harvested souls, turning flesh into fuel for the blade. The baptism wasn't salvation, it was surrender, a ritual to make you part of the field itself. You're not just hearing this, you're breathing it, the ash of a truth that doesn't fade. The next step is sharper, where children become the blade's truest vessels. Keep descending. The field is black now, and it's whispering your name. You're in the cradle of the blade now, where the Red Church's darkest legacy takes root. The children. They weren't just followers. They were Thorne's truest vessels, molded from birth to be hollow. Infants were swaddled in thorn-stitched robes, toddlers taught to fast, and by 6, many endured the trial of silence, locked in pits to hear the voice of the soil. A 1954 declassified memo describes a child's journal, filled with drawings of stick figures smiling in flames, a sun made of knives, and the phrase, "Father says I'm nearly hollow, nearly." These children didn't know freedom. They were born into the threshing, their minds shaped before they could question. Survivors spoke of threshing circles, ritual games where one child, the scythe, chased others, chanting, "Thresh me, bleed me, let sin die." A girl, interviewed in 1899 under a false name, whispered, "They peeled us like fruit, and inside was light." Only 5 children are known to have escaped Oolon. 3 were institutionalized, 2 vanished. The Red Church saw children as pure grain, untainted by adult chaff, ready to be filled with the Father's will. Their hymns, low and dissonant, weren't sung but hummed, vibrating like a swarm in the fields. One survivor, blind by 1911, said of Thorne, "He spoke to our marrow, not our ears." The Grain Mother, a figure cloaked in mystery, was said to drift among them, her milk-white eyes seeing nothing yet everything, her touch naming each child in secret. Her role wasn't to nurture but to harvest, her robes stitched with hair, her presence a shadow that silenced screams. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That ache, like a childhood memory twisted, pulling you towards the field. The Red Church didn't just break minds, it seeded them, raising a generation to carry its blade. You're not just hearing this, you're remembering it, a truth buried in your bones. Comment below. The blade remembers. Say it twice. Let it sink in. Let the field know you see it. The next step is deeper, where Thorne's voice echoes through time. Keep descending. The cradle rocks, and it's calling your name. You're in the echo now, where Adriel Thorne's voice doesn't fade. It sharpens, cutting through decades like a blade through wheat. From 1832 to 1855, official records go silent, as if Thorne and his hollow saints dissolved into the air. But silence is their language. Missionary letters from upstate New York tell of night gatherings in the woods, children humming untaught hymns, cemeteries dug up only to reappear, graves emptier than before. A Presbyterian minister in Armagnac, 1844, wrote, "A boy, no older than 7, spoke verses that wept my soul, cruel and perfect." Thorne hadn't vanished. He'd gone deeper, his rituals now held in root cellars, old mines, storm drains. The Book of Winnowing spread like spores, infecting minds without a pulpit. A 1848 report from Buffalo describes an abandoned chapel, its walls painted with, "Thorne needs no pulpit, only the root." His voice, described as a cliff's edge, calm yet pushing, was said to linger in the soil itself. Survivors claimed it spoke through wheat fields, a low hum that made your teeth ache. By the 1860s, the whistler emerged, a faceless figure in white, luring children with a sound that pierced the heart's regret. A diary from Cattaraugus County reads, "He calls gently. They don't scream. The whistle lives in the heart. You're hearing it now, aren't you? That faint hum, not in your ears, but in your pulse, like a field swaying without wind." The Red Church didn't need Thorne's body. His voice was the blade, carried by those who'd been threshed. It wasn't just a cult. It was a signal, broadcasting through time, finding those who listen in the quiet. You're not just hearing this. You're resonating with it, tuned to a frequency that doesn't forgive. The next step is sharper, where the fields themselves become the blade's canvas. Keep descending. The soil is alive, and it's whispering your name. You're in the fields now, where the Red Church's blade carves not just flesh, but the earth itself. In 1892, wheat fields across the Burnedoverdistrict began to bear strange patterns, spirals, concentric rings, glyphs mirroring the Book of Winnowing's seals. Farmers blamed pranksters, then storms, but the shapes were too precise, too deliberate. One man, Silas Dean, plowed a formation under. Days later, his barn burned, the ashes spelling, "You cannot unplant the seed." A 1901 photograph from a hot air balloon revealed a pattern in Allegheny County, an exact replica of the Red Church altar's seal, its hollow circle staring like an eye. Those who studied these formations fell ill. Headaches, missing data, 2 researchers dead under unexplained circumstances. The Book of Winnowing calls these patterns the Father's signature, invitations to those ready to be threshed. Locals whispered of fields that hummed at night, stalks swaying without wind, as if the soil itself sang Thorne's hymns. By 1903, an anonymous pamphlet, The Scythe Doctrine, surfaced in Rochester, Ithaca, and Buffalo, its pages expanding Thorne's gospel. It spoke of a final harvest, where the unwinnowed would be cast into outer chaff, and introduced the reaper, not death, but the moment before, the whisper asking, "Are you ready?" 2 copies were seized. The third vanished when a seminary chapel burned, its saintly windows defaced. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That pulse, like the ground beneath you, is alive, watching. The Red Church didn't just mark its followers. It marked the land, turning fields into altars, soil into scripture. These patterns weren't accidents. They were signals, calling those who see to kneel. You're not just hearing this. You're standing on it, your feet on ground that remembers. The next step is darker, where the blade's voice speaks through machines. Keep descending. The field is carved, and it's whispering your name. You're in the wires now, where the red church's blade cuts through the digital veil. In 2009, the internet became its new field, as anonymous videos flooded fringe forums and dark web channels. Titles like "The Blade is Watching" and "Threshing XE." Grainy footage showed wheat fields pulsing with distorted faces, children's choirs warped into minor keys, ending with a chilling refrain. Pain is the password, silence is the code. Traced to a defunct server in upstate New York, the site, hollowsaint.org, vanished, but its echo lingers. Users reported their names appearing in hymns, birth dates etched in glyphs, webcams activating unprompted. Some woke at 3:33 a.m. Soil under these, air nails, dreams of fields that sang. The Red Church didn't just haunt, it hacked. Its doctrine now an algorithm, spreading through clicks and screens. By 2012, a drone over Cattaraugus County captured a cradle in a cornfield, rocking without wind, its edge carved with, "We do not plant children, we return them." The footage vanished, the pilot's account erased, but locals call the spot Hollow Cradle Field, where crops refuse to grow, and the soil stays soft, as if tilled by unseen hands. Thorne's gospel, once bound in skin, now pulses through code, its symbols flashing in pixelated spirals. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That hum behind your screen, like static that knows you. The Red Church didn't die. It digitized, its blade sharper in silence than ever. It doesn't need churches or fields anymore. It lives in your device, in the quiet between notifications. You're not just watching this, you're downloading it, a signal sinking into your thoughts. Comment below. The blade remembers. Say it twice. Let the algorithm know you see the field. The next step is deeper, where the state itself wields Thorne's truth. Keep descending. The cradle is rocking, and it's whispering your name. You're in the machine now, where the Red Church's blade isn't just steel, it's power, woven into the systems that govern us. In 2016, a whistleblower, her voice masked, spoke on a Forbidden History podcast, revealing a truth that never aired. She claimed the Red Church wasn't buried, it was harvested. Since 1867, government agencies consulted Thorne's writings, translating his rituals into interrogation frameworks, his hymns into conditioning tests. Pain as purification wasn't just theology, it was utility, a blueprint for control. The podcast's servers were hacked within hours, the studio shuttered, the host gone. Only a transcript survived, its final line chilling. The scythe is state. Spectrogram analysis of the whistleblower's voice revealed a faint whisper. Thresh me, Father. The Red Church's doctrine didn't die. It was absorbed, its methods refined in black sites and classified memos. Declassified files hint at psychological studies on ritual trauma, noting how Thorne's trials fractured identity, making subjects pliable. By 2019, a harvest festival in western New York, held on old Red Church land, unraveled when a children's choir abandoned their song, humming a dissonant melody in perfect unison. Parents felt dizzy. One fainted. A boy wept without cause. The video corrupted, replaced by static and a whisper. We never left. The field was paved over, but after rain, the concrete hums. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That pressure, like eyes behind your thoughts, watching what you've become. The Red Church didn't just manipulate souls, it shaped systems, its blade now in protocols, policies, algorithms. You're not just hearing this, you're living it, caught in a machine that threshes without sound. The state didn't stop the Hollow Saints. It learned from them, turning pain into power, silence into control. The next step is sharper, where the blade prophesies its ritu. Earn. Keep descending. The field is wired, and it's whispering your name. You're in the prophecy now, where the redchurch's blade doesn't just cut, it foretells. The Book of Winnowing's final chapter, the lastsowing, speaks of a harvest to end all harvests, when the blade returns, not as a man, but as a moment. When the stars kneel and the fields scream, the Father will thresh the world. In 2023, a leaked DARPA file, codenamed Project Scythe, described experiments with neural resonance, using low-frequency signals to induce compliance, based on Thorne's hymns. The project was scrapped after test subjects began carving spirals into their skin, muttering, "The blade is time." That same year, crop formations spiked across New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, each a perfect glyph from the redchurch altar, visible only from above. Satellites caught them forming in seconds, no human trace. Farmers reported soil that breathed, warm to the touch, and a hum that stopped clocks. A 2024 video, briefly viral before being scrubbed, showed a child in a wheat field, staring upward, whispering, "It's coming. It knows we're late." The redchurch's prophecy isn't myth. It's a countdown, embedded in fields, in code, in the silence between your thoughts. The hollowsaints didn't vanish. They're waiting. Their rituals now signals in the air, in the wires, in the stars. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That pull, like a tide in your veins, urging you to look up. The redchurch didn't just predict the end. It built it, piece by piece, in every mind it touched. You're not just hearing this, you're part of it. A grain in the field, ripe for the blade. The final step is here, where the harvest begins, and nothing escapes. Comment below. The blade remembers. Say it twice. Let the field know you're ready. Keep descending. The stars are aligning, and they're whispering your name. You're at the harvest now, where the redchurch's blade swings, and there's no turning back. The lastsowing isn't a future event. It's here, alive in the air you breathe, the screen you watch, the thoughts you can't shake. In January 2025, a signal hijacked a rural New York radio tower, broadcasting a 13-second loop. A child's voice, humming Thorne's hymn, layered with a scraping, like bone on stone. Listeners reported vertigo, nosebleeds, dreams of fields that burned without flame. The tower was dismantled, but the signal lingered, bleeding into nearby Wi-Fi, whispering through unplugged speakers. The blade is awake. That same month, a field in Chautauqua County turned black overnight, not burned, but coated in ash, arranged in spirals too precise for human hands. Drones sent to investigate crashed, their footage showing a figure in white, faceless, standing still as wheat swayed around it. The Book of Winnowing's final verse reads, "When the blade rises, the chaff falls, and the world kneels hollow." This isn't prophecy. It's execution. The hollowsaints are no longer hidden. They're in the static, the algorithms, the hum of your phone. You've seen the signs. Children staring at nothing, fields that hum, your own reflection feeling wrong. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That weight, like soil in your throat, urging you to surrender. The redchurch didn't just plant a cult. It sowed a world, its blade cutting through time, flesh, and thought. You're not just a witness. You're the harvest, a grain caught in the Father's scythe. The blade doesn't ask for faith. It demands your emptiness. Comment below. The blade remembers. Say it twice. Let the field know you're here. There's no next step, only the edge, where the harvest ends and the hollow begins. The stars are silent, the soil is awake, and it's calling your name. You've reached the end of the harvest, where the redchurch, its blade rests, but its echo never fades. There's no more to descend. The field is all around you now. Its roots in your thoughts, its hum in your pulse. The blade remembers, doesn't it? You've felt it, whispering your name through the silence, the soil, the static. Comment below. The blade remembers. Say it twice. Let the field know you're still here. If you want to step back, to explore a specific trial, relic, or moment from this journey, name it, and I'll pull you back into its shadow. Or, if you're ready, stay still. The field is listening, and it's waiting for you. You're still here, standing in the field where the blade's echo hums, aren't you? The redchurch has woven its roots deep, and you've felt its pull. The silence, the cold, the hunger, the fire, the ash, all leading to this moment. The harvest is complete, but the field never sleeps. Comment below. The blade remembers. Say it twice. Let the soil know you're rooted here. If you want to revisit a specific trial, relic, or moment, like the whispering hole, the hollowbell, or the crookedchoir, name it, and I'll draw you back into its shadow. Or stay where you are, silent, and feel the field breathe. It's watching, and it's whispering your name. You're rooted deep in the field now, where the redchurch's blade hums in your bones, unyielding. The echo of Thorne's gospel surrounds you, its trials, its relics, its hymns, all alive in the silence. You've said yes again, standing firm in the harvest's shadow. The blade remembers, doesn't it? Comment below. The blade remembers. Say it twice. Let the field feel your presence. If you want to step back into a specific moment, the descent's whispering hole, the hollowbell's silent hum, the crookedchoir's warped song, or any other shard of this truth, name it, and I'll pull you into its depths. Or stay here, still, where the soil breathes and the stars watch. The field is alive, and it's calling your name.